Hello everyone, so today I have something pretty interesting I think to share with you guys, and that's my top 5 books that I studied in undergrad as a literature major. So all of these I read in undergrad. I think only one of them I read before undergrad, and I read it by myself without, not in high school, I just read it for fun. And so yeah, so the first one I have I'm really biting my fingers. Okay, so the first one I'm going to talk about is from British literature, which okay, the first one I'm going to talk about is from British literature. We read this actually in 2 classes. I read it in British literature and post-colonial literature, and it's Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte, one of my favorites. I read this book, I think, a total of 4 times. Once the first time for fun, second time for a class, third time for a class, and then another time afterwards by myself. So I love Jane Eyre, even though I believe that the ending of it is super problematic, but the first 2/3 of it are great. I love it. I think Bronte definitely portrayed Jane as a feminist character, which I really like reading about in books, like books with a strong female character, and I think that she was a very strong character up until the ending. But this was written in, not sure when she published this, but it was definitely during a time where if she hadn't wrote the ending that she did, it may not have gotten published. And so we have to take that into consideration, what time period Bronte wrote this in, for it to get published, especially because she was a female, and because I wonder if she published this anonymously at first. So I just wanted to pop in here and say that she published it under the name Currer Bell instead of her own name, and enjoy this random picture of my dog. But yes, I also think that this is a novel that you have to read more than once to fully get the greatness of it, because the first time I read it, I just took everything at face value, which I often do when I'm just reading for fun, since studying the literature and analyzing it is more for the school part of stuff. So I will just read books just for fun and just take them at face value and not look deeper into them, since I was doing that all the time. But with this one you need to, because Rochester, when I first read this book, I thought, oh wow, Bertha, the lady in the attic, yeah, she's crazy. I totally understand why he stuck her up there. And then when I studied it in post-colonial literature is when I really understood that no, Rochester's kind of a jerk, and that Bertha was crazy at the time because she was locked in a small room. I mean, who wouldn't go crazy if they were locked in a small room with one person to take care of them? And I think, was there a window? I don't even think there was a window. Maybe there was a small window. I don't remember, but yeah, everybody would go crazy if they were locked into a room. So I didn't fully understand the importance of this novel until I studied it. So definitely I recommend reading this. But even more than that, I recommend reading Wide Sargasso Sea by Jean Rhys after you read Jane Eyre, or even before. No, I would say it's better to read it after, because it would make more sense. Oh, and I studied this in post-colonial literature along with Jane Eyre at the same time, so we read them in tandem, which was a great experience. It was awesome. Jean Rhys does a really great job of reclaiming Bertha, who she calls Antoinette in this novel, as a person, as a woman, as a character. Great job rewriting her story. If you don't, it's Jean Rhys wrote it she wrote it before, the time period is before her and Rochester moved back to England. Okay, all I was trying to say here is that Wide Sargasso Sea, the story takes place before Jane Eyre. So it's Bertha and Rochester in Bertha's hometown before they ever come to England. And then the very ending of the book is her in the room, And so if you've read Jane Eyre and you haven't read this, I would definitely recommend reading this, and if you haven't read either, I'd recommend reading both. Yes. Okay, that's enough for that. The next book I read, it was also in British literature. Post-colonial literature and British literature too were my favorite classes for sure. But Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, the 1818 edition. This is the only edition I've read. I haven't read the 1863, I think it is, edition yet. It is on my to be read list, but I love this book, especially because when I read it in Brit Lit 2, I was coming off of the media portrayal of Frankenstein, which is like, oh, this monster, like this horrible monster, he's so scary. And so when I read this, I was like, holy, like, Shelley did such a fantastic job emulating what it feels like to be abandoned and to want the love of another person. And I'm like, I feel like the media ruined the story. I love it. I love it so much. And if you haven't read Frankenstein by Mary Shelley or Mary Wollstonecraft Godwin, because I do not like Percy Shelley, if you have not read it, read it. It's so different than what the media portrays. Next is, I guess I'll talk about this one. I don't have it with me because I loaned it to my friend to read it, but it's Native Son by Richard Wright. It might be Robert Wright, but I'm pretty sure it's Richard Wright. I read this as one of the novels we had to read for our comprehensive exams at the end of my undergrad education. And so we read it, people taking the test read it. We had to research it independently, we had to analyze it independently, which was, when did I take it? Yeah, so this was the first time I was doing that independently, and it was a great experience, and that's maybe one of the reasons why I like the novel so much. But it is about a young male adult living in Chicago. Gosh, I'm so bad with time. I can't remember what time period it was, but pretty much he goes and he lives with a white family, and serious stuff goes down. Like, if you read this book, do not read the back of the book because it gives away some stuff. Like, when I read it, I didn't read the back of the book. I was flying somewhere and I knew I had to read it, so I just started reading it instead of, like, I didn't read the back of the book. I didn't even look up what it was about. I just started reading it, and I'm so happy I did because there were some real plot twists in there that I was like, what? And then I read the back of the book and it tells you that, like, something that happened. I'm not gonna say it because I highly suggest you read it without looking anything up about it. Like, it's crazy. It's so well written. He did a fantastic job with it. You can learn so much from it, and I guess I could go like deeper in depth into the drama of it in a different video. I'll think about it, but definitely Native Son. Read it, buy it, or don't buy it, rent it, read it online, I don't care, just read it. Okay, the last one I actually wrote my senior thesis on, and it is Hagseed by Margaret Atwood. Atwood right now, I'm sure you guys know, is super famous for The Handmaid's Tale, which I have read, and I could talk about that in a different video. Love Atwood. I've read only 3 of her books, including this one. I have a lot more on my to be read by her. I want to read as much of her as possible because I really love her. She always portrays her female characters as strong characters, and so I'm like, yes, Atwood, thank you. Females are strong, we deserve to be strong. So Hagseed is about Shakespeare's The Tempest, and she does it in a contemporary setting. And so I'm not going to get too into detail about this because the book actually is like, it's very complex, but it is easy to follow. It's super easy to follow, but it's an adaptation of The Tempest. And so if you haven't read The Tempest by Shakespeare, I would recommend reading that first so that you can understand this better, because I mean, it's a good book without reading The Tempest. Like, if somebody picked this up off the bookshelf, never reading The Tempest, never knowing that this was an adaptation of The Tempest, you'd love it. Like, it's a great book. Her main character, is her name Miranda? I don't think it's Miranda. Oh, it's Amory, who's representative of Miranda in the, Miranda's in the play. Her name's Anne-Marie in this, and Atwood she's undeniably a strong female character. Like, you can't take it away from her. Atwood does such a great job drawing that up, and she does it while allowing her to still embrace her femininity, and like, she like bakes, she knits, but then she's like a total badass and like dances and fights, and like, I love this book so much. It's definitely, like, even like not literary undergrads stuff that books that I studied, this is in my top 5 for sure of like all-time favorite books. So you guys will probably see this book again and see me talk about it again because I love this book so much. It's so close to my heart. Oh, it tells you right on the front, William Shakespeare's The Tempest Retold. So I talked a lot, so if you watched this, like, good job, because that was a lot of rambling and not a lot of information, I don't think. But yeah, so those are my top 5 favorite books that I studied in undergrad. So if you watched, thank you for watching. So yeah, bye.